Welcome back to the Real Power Family Radio Show. I am Eric Wohlwend. My 16-year-old son, Deven, is the co-host today. And we have an amazing guest, Reena Friedman Watts. She has an incredible career. Out of college, she worked for the Jerry Springer Show. She has her Better Call Daddy podcast right now, which I was recently on. And boy, that was a fun episode. We talked for hours. So let's just start with Reena and see what are some of the problems you had in your life that starting businesses, and how did you overcome that?
I have been reflecting on that a lot lately. And thank you so much for that awesome, enthusiastic intro. I absolutely love that. As you mature in business, it's good to do a look back. How did I get here? What have I learned? And I think it's good to do this periodically throughout your life, maybe at the year marker, at the 2-year marker, at the 5-year marker. And so I was thinking back to when I first got my office in NBC Tower as a producer of the Jerry Springer Show. I rose the ranks pretty quickly. And where that was very exciting, I didn't have really managerial experience when I got thrown into that role. And what happens when you get thrown into a role that you might need a little bit of training for? And I
It
want to
is,
talk about that. Yeah.
it's absolutely amazing. Everybody sees these wildly successful shows, the programs. They see movie stars and singers, and they don't understand. You went to school, you got out, you were excited about getting your first office. You're in this big company, and you're like, wow, did I make it? I finally have my own office. And you forget all of the people it takes and all the time and effort you have to put in to get to that superstardom. And everyone's doing this. Tell us what do you think were some of the key things that you learned and had to do? We like to talk about this is what, or this is who we had to be and what we had to do to have what we wanted to have. So
Yeah,
who did you
that's a
have
great
to
question.
be to
Woo!
get?
You have to be thick-skinned, that's for one, because you have to be able to take criticism and you can't complain about it.
Absolutely. And that goes for every business in the world. And what are some of the things that you did to move up? And you were the executive producer, is that correct?
I was just a producer. I reported to the executive producer, but let me tell you, walking into the room with that guy was scary. And even pitching Jerry backstage the stories of who he was getting ready to face on stage was scary. I put that guy on a pedestal. He was a celebrity. I, like you said, was right out of college. I was in my early 20s. So how do you present yourself professionally and seem like you have it all together when a bit of you is fangirling? How do you treat people normally and get the job done and get the job done well when you're having to balance all of these emotions?
So you had to deal with the human factor, the emotions, and you're doing, as you call the fangirl thing, and yet still trying to pretend like, oh, yeah, I know what I'm doing. I'm in charge. Did a college degree actually teach you anything about that? Or is that just something you walked into and figured out on your own? I mean, do you think you can be taught these things?
That's such a great question. I think for me, I started off at a small school first because I needed personal attention. I needed to learn how to go to my professors for help. And starting off at a smaller school, the University of Charleston, I got that. And I was able to get really good grades and a lot of attention and that confidence that I needed to then transfer to a bigger school, which I transferred to Purdue. So I went from 2,500 students to 38,000. And I think that progression for me did give me the confidence that I needed in order to take some of the risks that I took in my career. But I don't think I would have been ready to go right from high school to Purdue. I think I needed that stepping stone of a little bit of coddling there.
There is a big jump. And I know Devin's not really, he started college at 12, but he did his first actually at 12. He was actually going to a branch of Kent State. And that's barely more. You go to a small branch, that's where I started. And it's a lot more like high school. It's an easy transition.
Exactly.
And then you have these larger schools. They're kind of breaking you in. I mean, you're just thrown in. And I mean, Kent State is known for protesting and all of these crazy things. And you're just experienced. You're thrown in to this mixing pot of craziness. Kind of like a business, huh?
Also, kind of like Jerry Springer, when I was thrown into that, I still was a small town girl. I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky. I went to school in Charleston, West Virginia for 2 years. And even at Charleston, like you said, it kind of had that high school vibe. It was not harder than my high school. I went to a very competitive high school. So when I moved to Chicago, I wanted to be a big city girl. And what that meant was getting my hair done at Mario Cicosi and shopping at expensive stores and living on the Gold Coast. I wanted that. I wanted that life. And to get that life, you had to listen to the successful people around you and emulate them. I saw who was getting the best guests. I saw who the executives were happy with. And I listened to them and tried to make my own version of that.
I
You
absolutely
were
love that. So, what you had to do, you had to find people that were doing what you wanted to do. Maybe they took you in and were your mentor, or maybe you just emulated them, you followed and saw what they did, and you started acting like them until you became more like them. You started doing what they did, and eventually you had what they had, correct?
Exactly. Exactly. Even if they didn't want to give me that mentorship, you got to seek it out. And look, there's competition, baby. Like everybody wants that office in NBC and
Oh, yeah.
everybody wants the craziest guests. So they might not offer you that mentorship, but you can listen to the words that they're using that work and you write them down.
And you read it. Absolutely amazing. I did roughly the same thing in real estate. I haven't bought a house off a guy, and my whole rule was under no circumstance do I waste time. There's not enough time in this world. So I mailed checks. Well, this guy financed a house for me. He was the one exception. I drove a check to his office every month, a couple days before it was due, and sat there talking to him until he threw me out. And I just
I've
learned,
gotten jobs like that. There was a
yeah.
guy, I swear to God, I applied to him for an entire year in Hollywood. He was working on every show that I wanted to work on. He had been in the business for 30 years. We were both in the Producers Guild together. And sending him a resume with, the form cover letter was not working. So finally, I just got ballsy and I said to him, Bill Clinton's no longer looking for interns. This job is the one I want.
I love
And
that story.
he
We're
loved it too.
we're
Got me the
telling all
interview.
these stories. Deven, remember, he's 16, doesn't have a clue what we're talking about, and has probably never seen Jerry Springer. Deven, did
Yeah,
you
I
have a
haven't seen
comment?
Jerry Springer. I'm not sure about the Bill Clinton thing, but I'm just thinking about all of this and comparing it. Yeah, a lot of these things are the same things you've taught me, Dad. Go out, find out who's doing what you want to do, and copy them. Use what they've learned instead of making the same mistakes yourself. Going back to the college thing and the getting started with Jerry Springer for Reena. It's life doesn't come with a playbook. You kind of have to figure a lot of things out.
You really do. And we will, let's just say that Bill Clinton had a famous intern and not famous for a good reason. We'll go with that.
I,
Okay.
I I tried to reach out to her. I would love to get her story.
Oh, I bet that would be incredible on your podcast. I'd love to hear that.
Well, too, she talks a lot about anti-bullying. And I think, look, we all screw up. And sometimes, like Jerry Springer, he was voted the worst show in the history of television. Some people are able to spin news stories in their favor. I mean, that really worked for him for, 30 plus years.
Hey, good press, bad press, it's all press. I'll take it.
If you show up with a smile,
Yep. Have high energy, be there every day, and just keep showing up. So, we are going to take a quick commercial break. We will be back in just a moment to talk more about Better Call Daddy and see what you're doing nowadays.